It's funny. I thought about changing careers.
So what?
I'm becoming an engineer.
Oh, instead of photography, do it straight up engineering.
Yeah,
You can do it. I can see you got the beard for it too.
yeah.
You look like one of these black engineers, bro.
I just reached out to this one professor at UCLA.
Mm.
I'm trying to see if I could really do this transition in like 5 years or so.
Yeah. Why were you thinking about doing that though? Why were you thinking
So
of transitioning from doing that to from the
you,
photography to engineering?
you
I'm
said
curious.
what?
Huh?
You said why?
Yeah. Why? Why? Just
Like,
curious.
so it's a funny story. It's actually not funny, but I went. The short story is I said to be on what's today? Saturday. I think I said to her on Wednesday. It was the Lakers were playing the Jazz, right? I said if the Lakers lose this game, I'm gonna quit photography. So and I was like, I gotta stay true to it. But the reason why I even got to the point of putting my whole career in LeBron's hands was man, I got tired, man. I just didn't have the energy to be independent, you know. Like I've been doing this for like 10 years now, over a decade, and I've been thriving, been up, like just doing all sorts of stuff, right? It's been going really really well, but it's like I got to a point where I was just like, man, I don't want to just be bouncing ideas off my own walls. I don't want to just be trying to like be doing the communications and the design and the like the planning, the vision planning, the art direction, and then like trying to like bring it to life. It was just taxing, right? Um, and I really don't want to do the creative 9 to 5 thing. I'm not trying to like work at an agency. I'd rather be creatively independent than um, you know I'd rather be creative independent than like working at an agency. So I just thought about what it is that I really like to do. I like to make. I like to make things. I like to get in the studio. I like to build like concept and shoot and process my own film. Do all those things. Whereas I like the building process, which is like really an engineering thing. And everything else, like around the building process, is like I don't really have. I used to have the energy for it, but I don't have the energy for it anymore. And I don't know, like my dramatic like thing was like, you know what, like instead of just trying to figure out how to get help, I was just like, let me just get out 100%. So um I don't know. I really I've had a good year, even in spite of the pandemic, right? But it's really been like because because like because now we have the baby, so although B and I both like kind of balance that, like she like takes most of that on, right? So like whereas I could lean on B for things before, it's like that's not really the case. So like I'm in here like cracking this out, so it's like it's just taxing. So I'd rather like figure out how I can be in an ecosystem that's set up and just be my full self in that ecosystem rather than trying to like build a plane and fly the plane, which is like
Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about right now, everything you're saying, all your words, you hit me a little bit too deeply. You hit me a little bit too deeply. I'm not even joking. Like I've been extremely tired,
yeah,
for like a few weeks, but definitely a few months, and probably honestly like for a few years.
yeah,
And it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like full-time day job, trying to be a full-time, part-time, want to be preneur, entrepreneur, artist. Because I mean, I think people fail to realize like any sort of artist is an entrepreneur. Like you're literally, it's confidence. It's almost like it's like you're literally telling somebody that a photo that I take is somehow worth such and such amount of money versus a photo that anybody can take on their phone, or
yeah,
a photo that a painting that somebody paints is worth such and such money versus someone else that just can throw some little splatters on the wall. Like all of it is just like
yeah,
it really is brand building, marketing, having constantly like express your vision and be able to execute over and over and over again. And every single day you're selling yourself.
mm-hmm.
Every single day you're selling like a piece of your ability and your ability to somehow shine brighter than other people. And not until recently did I understand like the amount of work that my friends and others have done just to get to that place where people believe in your subjective talent objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, your thing is objectively better than someone else, but all it is just subjective. What
Yep,
makes the Picasso or Basquiat better than any other painting that anyone else can put together, even something that looks similar, just because that's they're Picasso and they're Basquiat. The name's been built in. What makes your work, Rog Walker, better than, I don't know, someone else that they're not willing to pay for? It's because it's built in, whether it's based on reputation, your consistency, or your like aesthetic, or your repetition over years. It's just, I don't know if that secret sauce is the right formula, but I know it must be stressing and like brain numbing to try to do it all. Because it's what they don't see behind the scenes is, which I'm slowly preparing myself for, is like it's the emails. It's the
Yeah.
emails. It's the
Yeah.
constant. It's the being at the shoots. It's the dealing with the lighting. This, that, so forth and so on. Like,
Yeah. It's funny. If I didn't have to, all right. So I think the two meetings that kind of got me.
yeah,
So I made this halfway north thing, which I still got to send to you. But I made halfway north, which is like like I said, it's 5-chapter short story. It's like set to original music. Worked with a really good friend of mine who's a composer. Made this beautiful music. Like we set up the musical direction. 35-minute musical piece. It tells like my story, and then I did like a research into the lives like 17 different artists, known and unknown, and put together this research novel, which was really really like work, right? And I just did it because I was really really passionate about it, and the feedback was amazing, right? Like it was really really great. But then it's like to do something like that was expensive, right? Because like my thing is like I'm not like I'm always about paying people, right? So I'm like, okay, everyone who's a voice. We had people, Joe Kenneth, and people that did voices on the track. So everyone who's a voice got paid, the composer, the mixer, everything like that, right? So then my thing is like, okay, let me see what I can do with this. Like, so I had reached out to my friend Jason, who knew a producer at Spotify, right? And he shared it with him. The guy is really, really nice guy. And he was like, this work is phenomenal. He's like, it moved him, almost like moves him personally to tears. He's like, it's so great. Um, um, and so he shared it with someone else higher up, right? And he was just kind of being 100 with me. He was like, listen, it's like, how the industry works is like people aren't really, he was saying frankly, like, they're not really interested in like good work. It's just like what's popular.
yeah,
And for me, he's like, okay, well, it's like whether it be celebrity content or what can be like quickly digested and stuff like that. So for me, it's like I would have to package it and pitch it in a way that it works and this, that, and the third. And like I don't know, that was kind of taxing for me because he was like acknowledging like, yo, this is phenomenal. Like I love it. I really want to get on the platform, but like I don't know. I'm gonna try it, but like he knows that like it's like what they're about is really about that like that popular stuff. So it's like it was tough because I was just like you do this work whatever and it can be quality, but like quality doesn't really matter, you
yeah.
know. So it's like
That's another sad part about it. It's like I don't even know how you guys all deal with it. Because sometimes I feel like I'm not even like a true creative. I'm just like I'm like somebody on the outside looking in who dabbles from here and there, and I haven't gotten the opportunity to truly commit. I think your commitment comes from opportunities that you consistently get and then you follow them up.
yeah,
But when I hear stuff like that, it's like it just kind of, for me, it kind of proves my point when it comes to a lot of these big businesses. I appreciate them. They're here to make money. Like,
yeah,
to me, Spotify is a public company. They got a stock. They're like, we just paid Joe Rogan 100 mil. We got to pay, Kim Kardashian 100 mil. And we got to pay,
yeah,
I don't know, Barack or Michelle Obama, somebody like that, 100 mil. And it's like they're so numbers and metrics based. They fail to realize that they won't even try to take a potential opportunity of
yeah,
like doing something that's just pure art,
yeah,
not them knowing that it's going to be a hit ahead of time. That's because it's not formulaic in that way,
yeah,
and not just taking a chance to truly be what the platform is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a platform for artists, platform for streaming. You want all this creativity, right? But really, when it boils down to it, you're not really about the creativity. You're really about making money, and that's
yeah,
why all these people with their mission statements and companies with their mission statements, I always just laugh at, because your mission isn't your mission. Your mission is money, and
exactly.
it's just a means of you making your money. But your true mission, it's like, oh, we're a streaming music service or a streaming service or a podcast service. No, you're a money making service that happens to use podcasts and music to make it. That's all it is. It's just get through this. Let's get through the BS. Like, you're here to make dough. You're here to give your shareholders money. You want your stock through the roof. You want to buy a house in the Hamptons. Everybody wants to keep their job, and that's all it is. And it's really all it is. And sometimes it's like, what are we really doing here? What's really art about? Like, is it art if all it is just about money? Is it art if it's really just about business? If it's just business, just to say it's business, and we're just in the business of making pictures. We're just in the business of selling ourselves. We're just in the business of making clothes. Just to say that. But let's stop calling it art. Because if it's gonna be a formula, then it's just fucking math, B.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
on a spreadsheet.
The thing that trips me out is that they're big enough to like.
Take a chance, and it wouldn't even affect them. You throw 500,000 on it, like whatever.
So it was. He said something that was really interesting to me,
Let me show you.
which is eye opening. When I was in the meeting, he asked me like, what was my budget for an episode, right? I told him it cost 19,500 to make, so 20,000, right? So he says to me, he's like, "Oh, that's good, right? So if you were to do like a 10 episode, that'd be 200 grand." And he's like that's he essentially was saying that that's light. He said anything under 300, they don't have to get approval for. So I'm just like, so I'm like, okay, which means that they have the means, and like it's not gonna hurt. So my thing is like it's about a willingness to take a chance, or willingness to say, all right, I'm gonna do it. But so that's what throws me off. Where it's just like, if it's good, it's like if I do this and it gets like really really, like let's say it starts steamrolling and it's popular, then they're gonna want it, right? And my thing is just like they're big enough to not be like operating on the back end, which I don't understand. Like,
I mean, like, I'm not even joking when I say this. And it's funny, I'm just glad we started recording all of a sudden. But it really boils down, these people aren't naturally risk takers. It's like what I've seen in life and what I've come to just come down to just see, whether it's politics, art, business, whatever, everybody's just trying to keep their job. Like nobody wants to take a risk. Nobody wants to truly like put themselves out there to be like, oh, I'm not going to be held accountable for this if it does well or it does badly. They just want to play the safest fucking seat possibly. Like I don't want to do anything to upset the apple cart or whatever they say, or to like to really put my neck out there. And it's just sad because like where all the freaks at? Where all the people who are taking chances? It's like there's a flattening of society. And it's a flattening of personalities, it's a flattening of art, it's a flattening of spaces. It's like I haven't been like really wowed by shit in so long where it's like, wow, this is crazy. I'm scared. This is so like out the norm. I haven't even seen this in any way. Good, left, right, wrong, up, down, artistic, or otherwise. And it's really just because people have seen the game. Or if I do it like this, if I follow the such and such route or follow that person's route, it's like that works. People are just following what works. And the sad thing about it, which I always laugh at, is because there's always that person, that thing that you're following, whatever it is, was unique and rare and original at a certain point in time. And all people are waiting for is that next thing. So rather than try to follow something else, just be you, be singular, take a risk, be original, and you may be the next thing that becomes the formula. I don't get it. When you tell me that it's only $300,000 and that's not even like the need to get budget, I'm like, I'm done. Like, what's the problem? I mean,
it's so wild to me. Like,
that's good. Like that. I mean, what about the diversity? Isn't it Black History Month, right? Don't y'all care? Remember that thing that y'all always do every year, Black History Month? Isn't it that thing? Isn't this the time for y'all to be taking quote unquote risk? You can write shit off on your marketing budget. Like it is what it is. I'm not even joking. Oh my God, we're celebrating Rog Walker for Black history and narratives. And it's like, okay, good. We can just write off that 300,000 that we're gonna put for the marketing and some other shit and just call it a day and say we supported it. Like that's what these people do. No disrespect, but I mean, you can throw money at me if you want, but that's what they do. I'll take all the money that you guys want to throw for diversity and Black history. I will take all of it. No problem. No problem. I'll take it. I haven't taken it yet. I haven't got it yet. So I need my 1 year doing it.
That's what it's there for.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that just goes back to like, just to take all jokes aside, this goes back to having genuine genuine relationships with people and people being genuinely interested in the things that they claim to be, selling and about. Like if you're going to do I don't even want to make it about, Spotify's per se, because I'm sure they got great people working there just like everywhere else. You just got to know what your mission is and stick to it. If you're really down to be supporting Black narratives and artists and people who are doing, innovative conversations and innovative like audio dialogue and stuff like that, just take a risk on it. Can't hurt nobody. If anything, you probably get more respect than whatever you think the downside of risk is. Can't lose.
I definitely, it's interesting. I think that's part of the being tired too, because there was a time where I just didn't mind like playing the game, but like now it's just not even. I don't know. I'm not interested anymore. Like we got this like Instagram mention a few days ago. Like, yo, that's a strong mention. And I'm like, the work didn't really change. You know, it's just like once that mention came through, then it's like somehow validated, and I'm like, like it's pretty interesting. That's how it goes, but that's how it goes.
Who'd you say mentioned you?
Instagram,
You said who?
Instagram.
Oh, Instagram mentioned you. Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's another thing where what it boils down to. And again, it goes into this idea of like risk taking with artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel this from everybody. I could, you, whoever it is, me, any other friend that we have that does, great creative work. It's just like everybody from the outside looking in, they're looking to validate. They're looking to, they're looking for someone else to validate the shit that they can see in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do a book that I know is undeniable heat. Like, it's just, this shit is fire. Like, I don't need to tell, no one tell me.
Yeah.
It's heat. Like, I mean, the writing, the photo, like, you have never seen anything like this. But it would take like somebody, Rihanna, Oprah, Beyonce. Oh my God, have you seen this book? And all of a sudden, like, your overnight success, like your life's changed.
Yeah.
And I understand that's just the way the world works. Sometimes you need attention and things to kind of give you a little spotlight. But like, as somebody like you who's been around for so long, has done so much seminal work, like, there shouldn't be anybody that needs to put a spotlight on you for your work to kind of shine. It just is what it is. But it's just the world what it is. It's just the world. Like, people want to, we're so risk averse that we don't even have real opinions. We don't even take real risk. We don't even have like real challenges. We just look for other people to validate the shit that we already feel inside, but we want someone else to say it. And that goes for art, that goes for business, that goes for anything that we like, food, restaurants, Yelp, like all these like fake, I mean, all these things are built from how do we create consensus? How do we create a means for me never having to stick my neck out to be the person that likes the one thing that no one else likes?
Yeah.
We're just losing culture. We're losing uniqueness by like adhering to this world. Like, think about it, whether it's like social media censorship or whatever it is, it's just all trying to create group censorship. We all want to be the same, but yet if you talk to anybody else, you talk to any individual, they want to be different.
Yeah.
But all their differences are based on eventually them being the same.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It's straight odd to me, but it's just the way the world is working, man. Just trying to create a singular being.
That's why I'm gonna be an engineer.
Exactly. You're doing engineering.
I'm gonna go make batteries for electric vehicles.
Or you're gonna be a Tesla maker in Austin. I see you already. You're already, man. Like, you can do it. Like, you've always been into the coding, like you said. You've always had that sort of analytical mindset. But it is sad to hear like somebody like you, who is just so incredibly talented and so seminal with the culture, to even like say something even jokingly or seriously, just to be like, I'm gonna go do something else because I'm just kind of tired.
Yo, it's rough. It is rough. I don't know. We'll see how this all goes. I'm just doing this publishing thing now, which I don't know. That may change my mind. I had a you know Stephanie Armani?
I don't think so. Did you? I think you told me about asked me about it before, but I don't think I have.
Oh, I asked her about you too. It's fine. She's a really great visual artist. Amazing work. She's Nigerian. So I reached out to her about publishing her book. I think I told you this.
Yep.
Maybe reach out to her about publishing her book, because I was like, I'm really into the building process, the process of designing and archiving. Right? Archiving is like my thing. I'm really about like archiving, and not just archiving in a closet, but like how can things be on view, like building physical goods, things like that. So I reached out to her to kind of publish some of her work, because right now we are at the point where like, okay, well, I want to start publishing other people's like stuff. Right. And so I reached out to her about publishing, and she was just super excited because she loves the work. She loved Halfway North. She thought it was really, really great. So she said something to me that kind of messed me up. She said, like when she was a kid, she used to take pieces of paper and just fold them up and staple them and like write. So then like she would pretend that she had her own book, because she always wanted her own book. That was like her thing, right? So she's essentially saying that like me reaching out to her like is like kind of like fulfilling something that's always been in her desire to have her book. And that just really meant like a lot to me, to be like kind of like this, my ability being able to like bring something in her to life. So it's interesting with this publishing stuff, because I'm like, oh, I think there's a ability to do that if I could just get untired. I think there's something there. And then also publishing, like we're talking to her about how for us, like the first book we did really, really like sustained us, because because we do everything in-house, everything's made to order, right? So like there's no upfront costs or anything like that. So it really works for us from like a profit standpoint. And then so when I went into start thinking about publishing for other people, I was like, okay, cool. The profit margin is pretty high, so we could just kind of split profits with artists. And then that opened up a really big kind of search because I was curious, like, what do publishers usually take, all right? Like a traditional publisher, right? I was like, if you went to, like, I know some friends who are like with Penguin and different things like that. I'm like curious to what percentage do people make, all right? And I found out that publishers take like 85 to 93% of profits.
I never knew that. Damn.
That is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. 93%. So
that's the thing. I heard like I thought it was like $1 a book, right?
yeah, some people get like a couple dollars a book, yeah.
Like a $20 book or something like that. Yeah, maybe that's about 90% for sure.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that was the case. So, and then also it's like it's like it's just crazy. Like, so you have people like Penguin, they do like 15,000 books a year, which I'm like, how do you even do that? Like, how are you even publishing like at that volume, whatever? But I was just kind of thinking about kind of like, just having a more like fair approach to that, like for working with artists to create like high end like archival books, and then from there we can it'd be digital, it'd be physical, it'd be all those things like that, it'd be like an immersive thing, and then from there we could like have an even profit share. So I don't know, it's kind of something that's been on my mind. Like when we did and also when we did Halfway North, like it's a physical book. It's back there somewhere, right? It's one of those books back there. So it's a physical book, but then it's also an audiobook, and it's like set to music, and it's all these things like that. And I always thought, and it's a digital book as well. So I thought about like that experience of publishing like a book, not just being like something on the table, but being this like full immersive experience of just like the book, the interviews. Even like she was yesterday when I was asking her about her light. I was like, yo, how do you light this? Like this lighting is amazing. She talked about her father's village in Nigeria and like, or her father's home. I don't know if she said village or home, but her father's home in Nigeria and the light from there, you know? And like, I'm like, this is something that's interesting because like to even have like in line with any physical book, to have like those insights and those interviews included are kind of dynamic as well. So like, how do we create like something that's a collection, a real story, like in print, online, and it kind of goes in line with what you were saying yesterday. We were talking about having like a streaming space, right? A space where it's like, oh, like you get like all these insights, all these like interviews and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's where my head is at. Thinking about all this stuff, but I think there's opportunity there.
You already know I agree with that. I didn't, because I mean, it's like everyone. There's a lot of people that we know who've like become artists. They become, who are just talented in their own right, and there isn't a proper documentation of what they're going through, their processes, their inspirations, their spaces, how they're manifesting all these different things. And that's kind of like what I've been trying to do with all these different things that I've been doing, as far as like having a series, which I guess I'm gonna have to ask you after this whether I can put some of this stuff. I know we had some things we have to bleep out.
Definitely.
I just realized, oh, this shit is a good conversation. I should ask you to be on the show too. But whatever. We'll talk about that after. Maybe not. But seriously, like I myself have been feeling like, damn, there's no person really covering, the people who are the people behind the people that other people are looking up to, thinking that they're the true artists and the true talents. But there's like the stylists behind these people. There's makeup artists, there's photographers, there's creative directors, the artistic directors. Like there's a team of artists that make up one artist that you see put in the spotlight. And I'm always more interested in those behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't want to use an analogy, but they have a more interesting story to me than the person has to be manufactured for this like public this dissemination. It's like that person behind the scenes can still be authentically themselves, without having like put on a front gaze and a front stage appearance on anything. I don't. So like you said, whatever you're doing, I'm down. Let me know if I can help in any way, shape, or form. From design to interview to any web stuff, or just liaising with the people, whatever. I don't know how yet, but we can talk about that as we go on.
In a perfect world, this is how I would envision like how, right? This after our conversation yesterday.
Mm.
I guess they say stop saying in a perfect world. Like there's someone who I worked with and they kept saying that. And it got stuck in my head. And I didn't really like it. But anyway, now I'm saying it. But anyway, under ideal circumstances, I think the way I would see something working, like from a partnership standpoint, like you talked yesterday about like interviews. I was watching your interview with Move.
Man, this was a good one.
Yeah.
These like, damn, these are just real low fat. Trying to get the HD consistent for y'all in the future one day.
Yo, I'm listening to you talk, or I'm listening to you, and I'm like, okay, this, like, I love interviewing folks, and I love like kind of diving into their story and like that. So as I think about like telling someone else's story or archiving someone else's story, as like reiterating some of the stuff I said before, it's immersive. It is like the stuff that they put out, like their output, but it's also the input as well, like the things that they're thinking, the things that they're taking in, what their experiences have been, right? And for me, that's something that comes through conversation, right? And comes through like building those insights through whether we do through interviews or whatever, like kind of like podcasting or whatever kind of series that would be, right? So when I think about working with artists, whether it be Josh or Stephanie or Tyler or whoever, like and archiving their work, right? I think there's another element that goes into it where it's like diving into the person themselves and their experiences and their points of view. So while I would love to like archive the output and publish that, I would also love to like explore their inputs. You know what I mean? Like interview those people, like and where does that live? Like, because right now, like we have tons of interviews. Like I'm working through 30 interviews or 14 interviews from like the different women who we interviewed in our studio. Amazing, like vulnerable interviews talking about different topics. And the question for me is like, how does something like that live? Like we have the book which we've published, right, which is an output, the portraits and stuff like that, right? But how do we collect all those stories into a library, right, and make it a part of like the publishing experience, you know? And I think with what you're doing from a conversation standpoint, from a design and even like a vision planning about, like I say, you talked about like streaming and stuff like that. I think there's like overlap there and ways that we can like kind of work and build, because I think those two things go hand in hand, you know, because ultimately like we've been doing both sides of that. We've been like, okay, we're going to do the interviews, we're going to cut the interviews, we're going to kind of publish them, and then we're going to take them from here and then go through this next step of the process, which would be publishing, designing like the physical goods, and then it's like the last step. Then okay, well, rather we're going to publish it on the internet, like just open, or we're going to sell it, or whatever the case may be. And I think for me, it's like breaking those three things up into three separate sections, right? Whereas like, all right, I want to do this middle section of like, you know, like building the physical goods and thinking about that part, right? This other section of like interview, digital media, stuff like that, I want that to be its own thing, right? Like someone else could do that. This last section, right, of like, you know, kind of communications, putting it out to the world, things like that, someone else can do that. And so for me, looking at it from that standpoint and then making one thing out of those, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. That's what you're saying, for sure. I got you on the middle part.
What?
I got you on the middle part. I'll talk about it.
Yeah, so I'm like really like building it out and thinking what it may be. I'm really interested in, like yesterday you said something that really intrigued me when you talked about streaming. Like, what are your visions for a platform? Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be fleshed out, but if you were like kind of
the version, right?
and all this digital content, like.
Yeah, I mean, as of now, like, I mean, people hate to, I don't know why people hate to hear shit like this. But I'll just say it to you, like, I have a grand vision, but it's like a 10-year plan. You know what I mean? It's like a 5 to 10-year thing. Right now, these are all, I hate to make people, I don't want anyone to feel like they're wasting their time, because they're not, because I'm learning. But these are all like test cases. These are iterations on the final thing. Like this is not HD for a reason. Like
Right.
as I was telling you, the first thing I wanted to do in this iteration, I went straight production team. We shooting an hour. We using the black cam, black magic, red cam. Like I went full on 100% production. You know what I mean? And I was in 2018. It's 2021 now. So my brain is like, yo, let's go. But what
Right.
I realize that I'm doing now is just like getting the conversational skills up, trying to get to the essence, trying to navigate, speaking to people that I'm not familiar with, speaking to people who I am familiar with. And once I get that honing, that sort of conversational down, then I can go get the equipment when stuff opens back up, get an editor, get someone to do the proper marketing and the proper like social media outreach and et cetera, and the proper clipping and all the other stuff. But for now, it's like, what can I get better at without having any sort of like impediments on? And that's throwing on Zoom and having a conversation with somebody. Because I can always interview you 5 times after this. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to become less interesting of a person. I can talk to you again about a completely different subject, and it would just be that iteration of the next conversation. So that's where we are now. But really, where this goes in my brain, how I'm going, is that this becomes, the Anthony Bourdain equivalent of art.
Mhm.
It's going through the diaspora, all around America, Africa, wherever somebody's at, or a bunch of people are at, congregating, creating something. I want to go there, see what they're doing. If you're a chef, I want to go talk to the chef. If you're a painter, I want to talk to the painter. You know what I mean? If you're doing photography, so perfect example, I'm going to go to Jamaica. I'll talk to a painter, a sculptor, a photographer, I don't know, a chef. And they're in different pockets of Jamaica. You see my journey through Jamaica, so that you get the travel element, then you get the conversation element of me talking to these people, and then you get whatever else of being in their space, trying to see what the essence, as you said, the inputs that make them them, and really going to kind of track their lineage and how they get to this moment. Maybe it's one person per show, maybe it's two or three. We'll figure that out as we go along. But then that long form conversation would then be like pulled out into a podcast, and then the best bits of it would be a part of the show itself. And that's how I imagine it. And then the books themselves would then become like, okay, great, we have a book here, and then I'm talking about, let's see, we talk about a space. Also, we go into the book, we're talking about New York City, right? And then there's all these stories that I have specific to New York City and photography that's specific to New York City. So when I'm in Jamaica, I give you the, I don't know, Port Antonio section of Jamaica. Maybe the whole book is about Jamaica. And then now you see it from my perspective. So you saw the show from everyone else's perspective. You saw me just walking around and doing my little, aesthetics thing, that I'm talking to artists, and it's artist focused. And then the book becomes, my personal experiences of being in Jamaica. Hey, I went to have a conversation with my pops who lives in Jamaica now. Went to go see where my family's from, yada, yada, yada. And then that becomes the whole ecosystem and we move along. And then eventually over time, when everybody gets tired of me talking, because I didn't say everything that there is to be said, and I'm just, you talk too long, somebody's gonna eventually hate your ass. You start finding people who are good at speaking and they're in specific areas. And it's like, yo, there's two people in Nigeria, that there's a girl in Nigeria, she's fired. She can go have a conversation in Nigeria. I don't gotta travel to go see them. It's already a built out thing. And then the whole shit just becomes SHEREN. And it's SHEREN in Nigeria, SHEREN in Ghana, SHEREN in South Africa, SHEREN in Europe, SHEREN, you know what I mean? Like SHEREN in Paris, SHEREN, and that is just like a whole ecosystem of just like artists sharing, and whatever it turns into. Maybe it's more music focused, maybe we filter by artist type. And then of course, because everybody's trying to eat as an artist, you try to figure out a way to build out more e-commerce into it. So you see the artist and somehow like naturally you see if they're a fashion designer, you see some clothes that they may have available or a link to their website or whatever. If they got a food, or they do food, they're doing a pop, they have a restaurant, you see details on getting to their restaurant. I'll think about that as we go along. That's definitely, again, like a longer term vision. I wouldn't need a whole lot of help to do that, but I'm just like, let me build the main thing to get people excited, to give them the sugar, and then we can talk about giving them a full meal later.
Right.
That's the grand vision of it all.
You know, and you said like, and as far as where you are right now in that vision, just kind of like
This is the
base.
beginning of the beginnings. I mean, literally so early in it, it almost doesn't even count. I'm not gonna even count beginning until like I have somebody's walking around me with a decent camera, and I have an editor that's cooking shit up. At that point in time, I'll consider this started. But I'm not even interested in doing like just basic one-on-one sit-down interviews in totality. Like I want a full show. Like I want this to feel like no reservations, parts unknown, like the full. I want the whole thing. That's
Yeah.
that's the goal. I want it to be something where it's like you would casually watch it even if you didn't care about who I was talking to. Like you had no idea who these people are. Like it
Right.
has to be that entertaining. I mean, I'm using one camera angle and there's no cuts. I know people ain't got the time, don't got the time and attention span for that.
I feel like watching Anthony Bourdain now that you've been talking.
Yeah, like,
Like, man, parts unknown.
yeah, I love all of that stuff. I've been watching all those shows for the longest period of time, like since I was 10, 11, watching, I keep using this reference, but like watching like Wild on E, and like we're in Ibiza and we're going around and there's people partying and there's, what I mean, whatever is like balloon, bubbles coming from the sky and champagne and shit like that. Like, this is fun. This is life. This is living. But the real essence of it was just like learning about other cultures and seeing the differences across the world. But you always need a hook. You always need something to keep the through line consistent and through everything. And again, a lot of those shows were either partying or food. And like a Vice, even like similarly, they were about politics or current happenings, and my shit was all art. Like I just want to see art, music, every single formation of what art could be in a space. I want that to be the through line through all these episodes. That's just my true passion. Like how we talked about earlier, like these companies are not really, their mission is not really whatever they're saying. It's really just to make money. The mission of what I'm doing is not travel. It's really just art, but using the travel element to hook as a hook. Like it's fascinating to all this. I'm fascinated to hear how people who think differently, how they piece it all together. It's like these people have like life skills and life ways of seeing the world that are uncommon. And I don't think many people, and I'm still trying to get better at it, but I don't think many people are good at getting to the essence of what makes someone unique. There's things that make people like, I ask myself these questions all the time, like, why do you want to do a show that covers these people? Why? Okay, great. I have a thing inside of me that I get great benefit and great joy from seeing other people win. I like to share in their successes. I like hearing people's stories. I'm a conversationalist. I believe exchange is the essence of humanity. I believe that transferring energy is what makes the world go around. I believe sharing is the fundamental, like, that and love are the fundamental, like, elements that make the universe, the universe exist. Everything's a transfer. Everything's an energetic release. And I just find the way that people come to terms with that sort of release and that exchange and how they see things, it's just something unique about it. And I just want to like figure out what that is a bit more. Like, why are you a photographer, for instance? Why did you pick up a camera?
Telling stories, telling my own story first and foremost.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it was really telling a story that didn't exist. I really enjoyed being able to express myself. I feel like I wasn't heard, and like photography allowed, it was an avenue for me to speak and be heard, even though it's like silent, So it's been,
and then somebody would ask the follow-up questions like, why did you feel like you weren't being heard?
well, I mean, I just wasn't, like, because there really is no space for there was really no space for creative expression. This is where it comes down to in the Halfway North piece. There really was no space for creative expression, like in my upbringing, in my culture, in my house. It was like, you're gonna do like one of these three things, and none of which are creative. So but to be able to go out and just say, okay, well, this is how I feel. Oh, let me turn the light on real quick.
Yeah. And I know exactly what Raj is talking about because I happen to be a Jamaican as well.
Yeah, that's better.
Exactly.
Sitting there in the dark.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so the options weren't there, right? So, and I don't know, being a middle kid. I was talking to my sister today. I was like, yo, Tamar. I was like, yo, I think I'm gonna move to Atlanta.
We're going to Atlanta.
You said what?
We're going to Atlanta. It's a fact.
Yo, I said to Tamar, I was like, yo, I think I'm gonna move to Atlanta. It's because so B was looking at agency jobs, right? I told you this, right? Mm-hmm. So she had like a few opportunities in New York, and I was like, let's just like, in case none of these things work out, let's just look at other cities, right? So I was like, Atlanta's nice. So I asked her, I was like, what are her like top three in order, like other cities? And because there's not a lot of other places I would live, all right? So hers were New York 1, Atlanta 2, LA 3, right?
The same list, okay.
So I was like, oh, mine is the same. I was like, New York 1, Atlanta 2, LA 3. I was like, well, we're on the same page. I was like, let's see what they got going on in Atlanta.
No, it's different. I just went there last weekend. Like I know you've been multiple times, but as a person with fresh eyes,
yeah,
that place is everything I thought New York was.
Yeah.
I was even talking to Josh earlier, and we were just talking about it. Like, New York is prohibitively expensive. You know,
Hmm.
the dream of what we think New York is just people who are just like, we're attached to it, so we keep doing it here. But it's not a safe space that's built for people who are trying to make it here. It's a place built for billionaires. The last thing they built in New York was like with the West Side over the railroad, $1 billion like playpen shit that nobody can afford to go to. They're not even building things for real people. You know what I
No,
mean?
yards, yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to be like, be serious. Like, when was the last time you saw a piece of grass in New York that wasn't already a park?
Yeah.
There's no grass here. There's nothing that's not been touched or mowed or lawn or somebody threw a building on. Every
Mhm.
single piece of space in this entire city has been touched already. There's no new development. I mean, there's no space to build. When you go to Atlanta, all I'm seeing is like, there's lots.
Yeah.
I can put a house here. I can put a business here. There's literally lots of open space. Forget things that are not in business anymore. I'm talking about literally open lots. Yo, this is for you. There's like 5 businesses in a row, and it's like an open space, and then like this open space, and then the street ends like a half a mile, half a block up the way. I'm like, oh, there's all these other lots could be
Yeah.
businesses. Then they didn't just. No one said there's no more businesses that can go here. There's no more business to put here. So it's like, oh, just add yours.
Exactly.
I see New York. I mean, I see Atlanta as just like, yo, there's grass here. You can cut it, put something on top of it, and build it for yourself. Like I saw a dude down there. He just had an instant shop. He's from Harlem. He just built an instant shop. He had his whole instant shop. That's all. I'm like, if this dude believed genuinely, sincerely that there's so much opportunity, he sell instants here. I can do whatever the fuck I'm doing.
Exactly, right?
He believes his shit so strongly, and like I'm like, if he can have an instant shop here from September, I can do whatever I want to do down here. Period.
Exactly.
Not trying to even shout on his hustle, but like anything's possible.
I was talking to Usman a few years ago,
Yeah.
and he talked about the same thing, just like building out his the creative space and everything. It's just, yeah, there's definitely more opportunity. There's definitely more space.
Keep secret. I'm talking to him next. Like she's the next guest on the show after you.
He is nice.
For next week. You know what I'm saying? So that's gonna be fire. I'm gonna be hitting him with all the Atlanta questions, bugging the hell out of him.
Yeah, yeah, that dude is amazing. Really good dude. I'm looking forward to that conversation. But yeah, he's yeah, really great conversation, and that he kind of motivated me to kind of think outside in that way, like because it's definitely opportunity. Yeah, I'm excited. So when are you going?
When am I moving? I'm looking
In
at
April.
like May, probably June at the latest. Like people don't even understand. Like y'all want to hear the true sauce. I'm trying to go down there, and if I'm gonna go down there, I'm trying to really just like trying to get a space, trying to get a house. Nothing expensive, something hopefully in the low twos, under two, if I can. Like that's crazy to me to even consider that. But it's like it just you do the math, you punch in the numbers. Okay, here's the HOA fees if I get a condo or whatever property tax. Like shit is just affordable. You know what I mean? Like stuff is cheaper than my rent to get a house. I'm like, this
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. Like, okay, I can have a whole 2 bedroom crib for like $1,400, and I get it. Like, it's in a certain neighborhood, but whatever. Like, I'm in a certain neighborhood now. I lived in certain neighborhoods before. It just is whether you want to take the risk or not. If you want to have success, you got to take some risk. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. But I'm thinking like probably May, June. I got to make some sacrifices to get there. Like I got to hustle up to get this down payment money. Just to be quite frank, like I'm probably gonna be staying with A for a little bit, and who knows if I got to go stay with my parents for a month and a half just to have as much money and flexibility as possible. That's what I'm gonna do. But I'm out of this place in end of March. It's over. Like we in boxes, throw the shit in the U-Haul container. Y'all can drop it off whenever I'm ready to go.
and you hate moving though. I remember I saw that.
I do hate moving, but I moved like 3 or 4 times in the past 2.5 years at this point. It's just I'm just at a point in life where it's like I don't feel like I got anything to lose. I mean, I wanna keep that energy because I think over the past year or so, or the past like year and a half, I was in a space where I got a little bit of money because of this job or whatever, and I got comfortable. And what happens when people fail to realize is like you're the most powerful when you feel like you got nothing to lose. You're the most powerful when you're like, again, what we were talking about earlier in the conversation, when you see the opportunity and the upside and not the downside over and over again. So I'm just in a space where it's like, fuck the little bit of comfort that I think I have. Let's go to a place where I got to go do it all over again, start from scratch, see things differently, see new ways of seeing, see new investment opportunities. Because it's almost indicative of New York in and of itself. You get too accustomed to winning. You get comfortable, and in other places like Atlanta, they unseat you. Like what's happening in New York nowadays?
Mm.
Where's the energy? I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure there's some kids who just out here making some shit in their room or whatever that's going to eventually take over. But I don't know. There's just something about places that have been on the top for too long that if you stay comfortable, you eventually gonna get ran over. Just like any other business, if you don't innovate, you don't get out innovated. If you're creative, you ain't taking photos no more. Eventually somebody gonna come and start taking better photos. Or if you're a musician and you ain't trying to be in the studio every single day, there's gonna be somebody that comes and takes your spot. It's just I'm just trying to stay active, and I think being active is moving. Oh shit, you guys saw my setup. I'm sitting. This is where I rest my computer on my label printer box.
Sunset, dude.
What happened?
Look at that sunset.
Oh yeah, the sunset. 30.
Yo, you got mad window, bro.
Oh yeah, I like windows. This ain't gonna happen in my next space.
I also have pretty decent floor to ceiling windows over here.
Floor to ceiling, but I mean they're big enough. But I'm getting myself unaccustomed to these luxuries because the next phase of my life ain't gonna happen. Yeah, if I can get some, great. But I'm just in do whatever it takes mode. That's just where I'm in right now. Like whatever it takes, whatever I had to do to get to a place of I don't know, sustenance, or get to a place of like truly challenging myself. That's where I need to get. I don't want to get comfortable.
Yo, you see, I'm messed up in that way. I'm 100. I'm like super bougie.
I'm bougie too, but it's like I like nice things, and I want to have nice things, but I never cared about things as much as I never really cared about much anyway when it comes to like things and possessions. I liked having an ambiance, but if you look at my place, like there's nothing on the walls. Nothing. It's empty. Like you know what I mean? It's for a reason because no place has felt like home yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, the most I got on my wall are like these affirmations that I put up a couple of weeks ago just to keep me grinding. You know what I'm saying? No one can outcompete you being you, and I can do that and be obsessed. If you're not obsessed, then stop what you're doing and find whatever you're obsessed with, and like just got to keep moving. Like just like cheesy. I mean, like real lo-fi shit. It's just I don't know.
I feel you on that though. Like I'm the same in terms of like just like I kind of really am just focused on work, telling the stories, right? It's weird though. Like I like giving nice things. I just want to really offer nice things to my family, to be into the baby. Like that's like where I'm at. I'm like, I just really want to make sure like they have the best. And I mean, just give me a room somewhere where I could sit and like write and make some stuff. I'll be fine. I just really want to make sure that they have like all the nice things, you know.
Yeah, you're a father. You're in a different space. I completely understand that. And that's the reason why I'm trying to take these risks, because it's like I don't have a kid. I don't have a wife at this point. Like this should be the time of my life when I'm the most, I'm willing to take the most amount of risk because I have no dependence. You know what I mean? There's gonna be a point when, I'm not saying you can't lose that mindset, but you can't retain that mindset. But it's like once you start having people that really depend on you, you gotta like, have like at least a bucket of safety assets, and you can't be able to like trade it all and risk it all. At least not 100% of it all the time. So I understand. I feel like I went off on a big tangent over the past like 10, 15 minutes, but we can get back on course.
You're not. I'm sitting here. I'm over here just looking at apartments in Atlanta on this side.
I know your budget is way higher, so you can get something really, really nice.
Yeah, I'm like, that's nice. Like,
I'm telling you, like, there's, the way I look at it, like I've been to a bunch of different places, particularly like in the West, Southwest, or whatever. And what you tend to find is like, okay, this place has like maybe like one or two different like downtown areas or places where there's shops and stuff like that. But like a true city, like if you think about New York or even LA or wherever, before I went to Atlanta, is like what makes it like really, really dope and engaging and interesting is that it has all these different small pockets. These little small independent neighborhoods that has its own, like, here's your grocery spot, here's your stores, here's your restaurants, here's your, your whatever. And it's like you got a few of those spread across the city. And that's what I've always been attracted to, like that abundance of options. And while Atlanta isn't like well, no place is like New York again, because it's just like something everywhere. But Atlanta has those multiple communities, those multiple pockets where it's like there's 7 different neighborhoods. You know what I mean? And I've been there one time for 3 days and just going all around the place. I'm like, every single place has its own little vibe. Like you downtown, you got a vibe. You're in, Inman Village, you got Inman Park or whatever, you got a vibe. You're in East Atlanta, you got a vibe in a little small community there. You're in, up there by, I don't know, wherever the Ponce Village Market is, or if you're by the Lenox and all that other area, like you're good. I mean, I don't know the whole place yet, so forgive me if you're from Atlanta, you listen to me butcher all these places, but it just has enough of a vibe. And I went over to Mechanicsville, it got a little vibe, and it's just like all these different places feel like their own little neighborhoods. They have their own little sauce and substance to them. But I've never seen a place that has so much, but you could actually really give a little bit more to it and have the space to accommodate it. So please come. I'm
Wait,
telling
so
you,
are you still gonna work remote when you peace out?
probably before, I'm over here telling if anybody from my job is watching this, me talking about my master plan to leave. I don't give a fuck. Like, do what you got to do. I mean, because I'm gonna do what I got to do. But
Yeah,
it's just, I'm gonna do it for as long as it makes sense.
yeah,
And I know there's gonna be a period in time, whether that's a couple of months or 6 months or a year or whatever, where I may have to get a little side job or try to figure out a way to hustle and get like a side project or I don't know, some sort of like, I don't know, put together a deck and try to sell something. I don't know. I get to that point. That's what I'm trying to build up now, is those side gigs and really get some money from them. But I'll do what I have to do. If I gotta sell some some investments, I'll sell some investments. If I gotta borrow against some investments, I'll borrow against some investments. I'll do what I gotta do.
I'm trying so hard not to touch my investments. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't like you shouldn't. You got kids. I'm like, what? I'm out here, bro. I'm like, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. I'm not YOLOing, but it's like I don't want to be in a situation where I feel like I got so much to lose when I didn't have so much to begin with. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's a scarcity mindset. I was telling, you know, like I just been telling myself like obvious shit, like, okay, you're leaving New York or you're not going to LA and blah blah blah, and you could be losing opportunities and what about taxes and yada yada. I don't care. My point is like I'm not going to give up the opportunity to go someplace and like have a 10x just because I want to keep the 1x safe.
yeah,
That's a scarcity mindset. Oh, I can. Oh my God,
yeah.
I'm making 100K. What if you? I'm making 100K, but what if you can go someplace and make a million? Like you're not thinking about the upside.
Exactly. You know, I think you really hit the nail on the head with that because when I talk to my family, I don't understand like uh not going for the 10x to keep the 1x safe. I don't, that just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, yo, opportunity, experience, all those things are right here. Like, why? It just doesn't make sense. And you don't really like the 1x like that. So it's just like, like, what are we doing? Like,
And the one
yeah,
X ain't gonna change your life, by the
yeah,
way. But the 10X might. I'd rather take a risk. I mean, just so you put real numbers on it, like I'd rather risk. I'd rather risk. Taking 100,000 and turning that to 50 or even 25. If I can turn 100,000 to a million.
mhm,
Like if
yeah,
those the odds, I'm taking that. Like there's a whole shit called like the Kelly criterion that tells you like how much you should bet based on like the risk probability of it being like a good outcome. Just to boil all of that bullshit down into something that's simple. If I can 10x and my like possibility of loss is like half,
yeah.
I'll do that. Like that makes sense to me. Like so it just oh my god, I could lose half of what I have, but it's only a little bit, or I could 10x what I have and make it a whole lot. Like I just want to keep taking those risks and taking those opportunities because that's really how you build any sort of like wealth. Fuck generational wealth. My kids ain't getting nothing if I have them. Like I'm talking about my wealth, my enjoyment of life. Like if I can make something that's comfortable, because I know what I would do with any sort of success I have. Like everything for me is like, how do I help other people come up? Like that's like a fundamental thing about me. So I realized that it's actually irresponsible for somebody who has like the ethos that I have, and ethos like you have, and ethos like other friends of mine have, to not try to be successful because I know that any sort of money I get is going to be well spent and well managed and well curated and used in my hands versus somebody else is just going to use it to buy a Lamborghini. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go try to build something that puts other people on versus like go
yeah,
use it for some material shit. I don't. It just doesn't matter to me that much. Like I really get a lot of joy from seeing other people win and like giving them pathways and breaking down doors. And what I tend to find is that a lot of us who are we're getting older and we're getting much more risk averse. We don't realize that we're becoming gatekeepers, like the
mm,
same gatekeepers that were holding us back too.
mm,
Because we need to like make sure that the shit that we're engaging in, the people that we're associating with, are within our brands, and they're good for our social media followings, and they're like fit the right aesthetic. Like that type of shit is all the shit that we were complaining about 10 years ago when nobody was making any money from all the things that we're doing. So we got to watch ourselves and make sure that we don't become those same people.
yeah. Yeah, it's tough because I think also like where does experience fit into that too though? Because like I think like there's a lot of emphasis on opportunity and
Mhm.
I don't know, like you talked about generational wealth. Like we have this really cool, really great investment plan where we're like, all right, like if we do this, like by this time we'll be able to give like the baby like 1.4 million, right?
Yeah, I got numbers on deck.
So my thing is like, first off, why are we giving this child 1.4 million dollars? Right?
No money. She can get out the mud like everybody else.
Yeah.
Pay for,
Right?
pay for her education. Everything else comes like with shit that she unlocks for herself. That's how I'm living my life. If I make any money, you need to make 100,000 to get 100,000. You need to make a mill to get a mill. Like that's how my brain is set up because that's an incentive. I'm not giving
Yes.
nobody nothing.
No, so I think about it like this though, like not even from that standpoint. Like, all right, so like we do this plan. Two things, because I was asking a bunch of people. I was like, yo, if your parents gave you $1.4 million at in college, what would you do? All right, and I'm like, maybe it's not smart to even give her that much money at that time, right? Secondly, like you don't know what she's going to do and be with her own life. Like she could have her own money. And my thing is like to sacrifice myself and my experience and my life for someone else. I just feel like that doesn't make any sense, right? Because then if you're not happy, then like she's gonna know and she's not gonna be happy. It's just like I think you should really like take care of your happiness, all right? Make
Yeah.
sure you're happy, make sure you're whole, and you could be a whole person and in relationship with the child. So I feel you on that, like the generational wealth thing, because it's a it's definitely a balancing act because you're like, all right, should I just take like hit the Schwab, empty it out, and like our own on our own ideas, or do we just hold it?
I gotta start using that. Hit the Schwab.
So like I'm like, what do we do? Like, are we like, do we kind of like invest in ourselves, or do we like kind of like hold on for this net? Like I'm like I just feel like our parents have done that. Like our parents have like given up a lot of life, like for the sake of like having me go to Mount Vernon High School. You know?
What's the baby's name?
Irie.
Irie?
Yeah, Irie. Irie.
Listen here, Irie. The conversation where I convinced your pops to not give you any money. Just fine. You guys are her parents. You give her all the jewels of life. She can go make it herself. I don't believe in giving. I'm like super. When I think about parenthood, of course, I don't have any kids, so like, all this is to be determined.
Yeah.
Like I believe in making their lives as rough as possible. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But no, like I just want somebody to become an adult. Like you have to mature. I think we as a society have been doing this a lot, and it's because the people are so fearful of their kids having a hard life. I don't want my kids never to have to struggle. I want them to struggle. I want them to have to figure it out. I want them to have to go through stuff because I feel like that's what made all of us get to any space that we're at is because we didn't have a direct roadmap in life. We had to figure out how to survive and sustain. If that's taken away from somebody, they don't have the tools to progress, particularly in the world that we're headed to in the sort of like digitization. And I can't imagine what 20 years is going to be from now. But I definitely know that person needs to have an entrepreneurial, like bottoms up, first principles thinking sort of mindset, and to be able to like quickly adapt. And any sort of situation where like that person is like, oh, I'm guaranteed a meal or guaranteed whatever. I just think it lessens the hustle that you need to keep pace with people who are going to be coming up behind you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've really succeeded at with Irie, like she did all the things that all the good things early. Like she started sleeping through the night at 8 weeks, right? So we didn't have to like stay up all night. She was like sleeping through the night early, right? Started using the bathroom, eating solid foods, right? She walked late relatively our for my families, like my family. Usually my family people, the babies walk around like 8, 9 months. She like walked around a year, right? But with us, like we've found a lot of success by allowing her to fail successfully, you know, where meaning like we set up parameters for her to like have to deal with this situation, right? And I think as a parent, like a lot of people feel like that's just crazy. Why would you set up an obstacle, right? But I'm like, we're always setting up obstacles, and it really builds her resilience, right? She is like really really disciplined. She's really good at things. Like she can like she's not bothered by like sound in the space. Like so like one of the things we taught her is how to like sleep, right? So we would like put her in the crib and then we just like do all of our stuff, wash the dishes, do stuff. Like we're not trying to like make it really quiet for her, right? Like teach her. And now you can put her down, she'll sleep. Like we could be on the road, we could be anywhere. Like we don't have to like be sitting there trying to rock her and like figure out all this stuff like that because she'll just sleep. So I feel you on that. Like not necessarily like just making it difficult for making it difficult sake, but just like really teaching her how to like fail successfully. Like, okay, like how do you get up from this, you know?
Yeah, and I think what you're doing is the right thing. Again, I don't have kids, so I can't speak to it. So I take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I just don't believe in like anybody in life. Everybody's an independent person. Like I see children as or little people. There's little people. Like there's little people who are developing just like we're older people developing, but none of us know anything. And all a child is someone who knows less than you. So how would
Mm.
you teach anybody, much less someone who's supposed to be the person that you love the most? You like you said, you give them like an ability to make their own decisions. You give them things that they can't have at a young age. You give them longer time horizons. Hey, you could do this. You could not make your bed, but this is what happens when you don't make your bed for 30 days or a month.
Yeah.
And then somebody be like, you want to live in the filth? No. And then
Yeah.
they choose to do something for themselves. That's the
Mhm.
bigger decision. Like I don't believe in like rules in the per se. I don't believe in like setting, of course you got to keep somebody safe, they're a young person, but
Yeah.
I would rather give like it's almost like what Cat Williams said, like pimp decisions. Like, yo, here's a pimp decision. Your choice. You are a person too.
Yeah.
You can have it this way, do it blah blah blah, or that way, blah blah blah. And you can live with your decisions, but you got to live with the consequences of those decisions, and you got to live with the rewards of those decisions. And that's just how I just believe like this. You're gonna become whoever it is. I'm gonna be an old head. No matter how much I try, I'm gonna always be the old dude, the old dad, the old uncle. You're like this kid's like now we think we're cool now, but like in the future, kids are gonna be like injecting bat venom and stuff like that. Like, what are you doing? A
Yeah.
Neuralink and like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's always gonna be a generation ahead of you that's gonna be doing stuff that you don't agree with. So you're gonna be out of the loop anyway. So if that's the case, I'd rather just raise someone to make decisions for themselves. If you choose to do that, that's your choice.
Yeah.
I just think you really you raise somebody who is not just a follower and someone who's just like going to be dictated to by society, because that's where we are now in society. We've been raised whether by school or by adults, by parents, by friends, to just fit in, and we're
Mhm.
losing art because of that, and we're losing true original ideas because of that. Everything's become homogenized. Like we're losing like that frequency of like, oh shit, what can happen next, or what that person's gonna do, and that little bit of craziness that makes life beautiful. We're trying to like sterilize that, or like, I don't know, baby proof the whole world, and
Yeah.
it's not reality. It's not a reality that I want to associate with. So those are my views.
Yo, did you see Jay-Z speaking at Columbia?
No, I didn't. What do you say? What do you talk about?
He had a nice purple suit on, I'll tell you that much. Was it Columbia? Let me make sure. I got a, war against misinformation.
What do you
Let's see. Yeah, it's at Columbia, I think so. It's not in purple, it's like a blue suit. Look it up, it's on there. My thing is like, I was just been thinking about a lot about, like I said, it's weird, like I don't have the strength for independence anymore.
I can't even see you.
What?
I can't even see you working for somebody, bro. Like it sounds
Oh,
good.
that's not happening. That's not happening.
I was about to say, like it sounds good in theory, but like
It's not happening. It's I don't know. I'm not built for it. I would have to like rebuild myself if I were to. But I don't know. I think there's a middle ground there.
yeah,
Like, and that's what partnership is for. That's what I'm saying. Like I think, man, people build companies, people start things, people get like even like Usman, like they got like capital for what they're doing.
the black tag.
Like people get capital, people do things, and at the end of the day, right? Like we're making like what's the difference? Like if I'm doing content for like you talk about Lamborghini or like any of these brands, right? I don't want to start like Nike or whatever, right? That means that this content is good enough for that space, right? And the only thing like the only difference is like I don't have like the whether it be the connections or the platform or whatever to like to manage my own output, right? So my thing is like if I can then like develop my own agency for my own stuff, right? Like I said, there's no question about whether or not it's good. It's definitely good, right? But do I have the skill to be able to present that in the marketplace, right? And I think that's for me. It's like once I realize, okay, well, I've grown from being okay. I'm just trying to tell my own stories to like, okay, now I'm an artist, and I'm working with like brands and collaborating. I'm doing all these different things. And like the evolution now for me is like, okay, well, now I have to exist as an entity within the marketplace where like now I'm pitching my concepts and pitching like myself as a company in a way. Like that's where like I kind of hit the wall, because I'm just like, yo, you're not gonna win. I'm not gonna win by myself. Like I can be an artist by myself all day, right? I got a manager. My manager's great, like really great dude. So I can win with like just being by myself, just as an artist. But for my vision, it's much bigger than just me being an artist, right? So it's like, how do I carry like the weight of like my ideas, my vision, my like the things I have in my head. Like, and I realize I can't do that by myself. Like, it's not possible. It's impossible. So, and it brings me to a turning point where I have to say, all right, I'm going to have to either find a way to go forward, or I'm going to have to just go in another direction.
You just got to find a way.
Yeah, right now I'm leaning towards going in another direction, but no, I'm not going. I'm weird. I'm on the fence. It's tough, right?
You don't want to become an engineer. Working with somebody doing freelance gigs, like I understand these people are great. They built a whole bunch of great things, but everybody's. I think you have a lot more to say, a lot more to share, and a lot more stories out there that are there to be told.
Yeah,
45, 60, 70, 80 years old, and every story's been told. I think there's more space for that. You can become an engineer in 2030.
it is. It's weird because I'm at the highest point. I'm at the point of my greatest potential.
Yep.
Like the things I put out, like the reception it's received, the opportunities that are like possible on the horizon, right? Like I'm like at peak potential, right? But potential is not reality, you know? And it's like I'm here for reality, and like potential requires a lot of digging. And I'm like,
I can't even.
My arms are tired from all the shoveling.
I want to be so sympathetic to your plight. Let me crystallize something to you about potential reality. I am Mr. Potential. I'm potentially an artist. I'm potentially creative.
Yeah.
Like this is just, you want to see real behind the scenes. This is gonna go up. I'm gonna say this. So this is gonna go up on YouTube. Y'all watching the show now. Everything that is gonna be in here. We'll try to chop some part of it out. Probably not.
Yeah.
I have never, ever in 10 years of doing this shit gotten a check from anybody other than myself. Never. No company, no email, not one, ever.
Yeah.
Never. That's potential.
You're right. I feel you.
I mean, you guys have done multiple creative partnerships with multiple companies from VSCO, Visco, and all, yada yada. Like you're good. It's called, I'll let you know, escape velocity. You're at a point where you're like a heritage brand of art. Stop with this potential. You're kinetic energy. You know what I mean? Like you've lifted up, you put the boulder, you ran the boulder up the hill. You're like literally, if you got any more uphill to get, like you're going up another hill, but that boulder is going up and down that hill how many times at this point, right? You just got a bigger hill now that you're trying to bring it up. Don't give up now. You had all those hills are behind you that you didn't went up. Like try to talk about I'm gonna go left with something else to go right. Like, man, just keep pushing the boulder up the hill. You're good. Like, I mean, you just talked about it. Like, the guys with Black Tag, or the Seeing Black that Josh and the other guys did. Like, there's if these companies are sincere as they want to be and they're held accountable, I will be here to hold y'all accountable. they're held accountable. I think there's ways to create beautiful partnerships that are worthwhile and that connect and resonate the ways that they should. I think it's just a matter of like you said, just getting someone who's a creative, not just a creative partner, but a business partner. And I actually saw that with like Josh and Karen with Tonal. Like Karen is like from what they would say, the like business brain, the document, like who documents things, who, keeps the logistics going, who keeps everything in line from a business perspective. And Josh is really the creative arm more so, although I'm sure they both, jump from both sides at times. And I think you just may need like the business PR partner who like puts it all together, who's the messaging of the things that you want to do, who's the person that gets the people in the room, who does the scheduling and stuff like that. But you have the vision, you have the means, and you have the connections. Like Rog Walker as an artist is a name that carries significant weight. And I just wouldn't become a nameless, anonymous, numbered engineer when I'm you know, the only Rog Walker. Like you're authentic, you're original. There's nobody else that could be you, and there's no one else that can produce the art that you would create, have created, and are creating now. Like, but anybody can fucking put a battery in a Tesla. Like, I don't give you know what I mean? Like, I'm just being real. Like, it's not to demean these things. They're incredible and important. That's the future of tech, and of course, I'm not. But it's just like, what's to me, and again, I'm definitely biased, but you know, I'll take a painter that nobody else can paint than a car that anybody else can build, or a battery. That I get it. Like some of these things, if you're a phenomenal engineer, you're ultimately an artist in a way. You can create a light bulb. You can do whatever. I get it. Like all those things are important, but like, what are you truly meant here to be? To fuse a circuit, or to, like, you know, be the person that tells a story that's never been told before? I think it's the latter.
I know it's the latter.
Here we go. So fuck this engineering nonsense.
It's just, like, I know.
Just hit the Schwab, B. Just
hit the Schwab. Oh my gosh. Yo, that's the joint now.
Hit the Schwab. Schwab. Just get a cheap ass place in Atlanta that's affordable. Hit the Schwab. Get a business, put some of that Schwab money in that business liaison. Somebody like the person, I forgot the girl's name, but like Josh was telling me that the woman that worked on like the PR for Seeing Black did a phenomenal job. Like whoever she is, I think I don't know, but she's dope. I wish I really had her name right now, but I think she was working at some sort of publication or something, but she was phenomenal. There's tons of just, you know, entrepreneuring people, you know, definitely black women who are just like, they're on that PR tip. They know how to put it together per press release and get conversations and arrangements started. Give her a little bit of equity and let's move. You know, that's all it is.
I'm here for that. I'm definitely here for that. I feel you. That's what I think I need to do. I think I need to
10% or whatever it is, or, you know, a great salary with the potential equity as things progress, with some sort of, like, you know, milestones that are hit, and that's it. I just believe that that's the direction that we all should be headed in, because ultimately what we tend to we fail to realize is that as the world goes forward, and we're talking about hitting the Schwab, we're gonna have like multi-trillionaires.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to compete with. So when somebody's talking about, oh God, the $15 minimum wage didn't get passed, $15 ain't gonna save you, homie.
No.
That we're headed to, with multiple trillionaires, multiple $1 trillion businesses, where people are just going to be really trying to struggle from the bottom. We got to put ourselves in positions where we're like, we can aid those around us that are going to need the help, and we can invest in communities that look like us. And I'm just super serious about that shit in a way that is like my rocket fuel. I don't have all the answers right now, but if that's my target, I know I want to figure it out. And anybody that I know has the talent to do it should be encouraged to keep going forward and keep building out that thing, because that could be the next, you know, Uber of art, or something like that is needed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everybody can't be everybody can't be an engineer, man. Everybody doesn't want to work behind a computer all day long. I know I don't. You know, some people want to go out and meet people and actually have in real life interactions. Oh my God, a human being, I could touch you. You know, I don't want to live in a metaverse.
Yo, can you imagine me in a classroom? Just like, somebody's gonna peep me too and be like, yo, I think I've seen that dude somewhere before.
No. I just think it's important for people to realize that the art route is still relevant. You know, forget what these people are talking about with NFTs. I like Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin. So what? Like, it's just numbers on a database.
Yo, crypto. Come on, crypto is it's the right train to be on right now.
Of course, but it's like for all these things that happen, crypto, finances, all the stuff that I talk about that I've gotten to recently, it doesn't matter. Like, what really has all the equity in the world are your relationships, our people, our touching lives. Like, of course you need finances and equity and capitalism to like fund dreams, to fund the world that you want to see. But ultimately, what really fundamentally matters is the people that you're touching and the lives that, you know, that you're impacting. And I think we're losing sight of that, particularly within the past year, whether it was politics or whatever. Like, this shit is cute, but it doesn't matter. Let's figure out how to like live a life, have some enjoyment, and do things that are beautiful, and have some like memories, man. Like, I'm not, when I see Bitcoin going up, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm gonna remember this for the rest of my life. No, like, what are you talking about? But you remember an art piece that you did, a book that you created, a vacation that you went on, somebody that you met, a relationship. Like, we gotta remember these things. Like, we're getting a little bit into the whole digital realm. Oh my God, an NFT of Zion dunking. Oh my God, buy that. It's gonna be worth like Pokemon cards are now. I don't give a fuck. Like, beautiful. But these things are created by antisocial nerds. I'm a nerd too, but antisocial nerds are what we need to be worried about. These people are trying to like digitize things out of existence and digitize feelings out of existence. Like, I understand everybody needs to live in a space, but I'm really here to champion artists and people who like to create a vibe and a feeling, who still love doing shit and seeing things in person.
Yeah, you kept saying NFT, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So now I'm looking.
Non-fungible tokens.
Yeah, I see it.
Everybody's trying to digitize these little like assets and all these different things. Like I know about all of this shit. I like pay attention. There's nothing else to do but just work and listen to podcasts and hear what the other side of the world that I don't really like really know much about is doing. That's what I've been trying to learn. But as I've learned it, you know, you get excited and oh, this is cool. This is interesting. I can see this becoming something. But then it's like, okay, great. But I got to go out and go do something. I want to have a meal. I want to have a great dinner. I want to go have a great conversation. And I don't want to talk about this stuff. I want to talk
Yeah,
about, you know, that person I saw with the all red outfit that owned the Insta store in Atlanta with the braided, the twisted the locks.
yeah,
I had the same outfit on 3 days in a row that I saw him hustling instance. Like that's fire. That's a dope ass story. That dude's a hustler. Like that dude, he's not creating SpaceX or whatever, but he's living his own life, his own existence. It's pure. It's dope. Like, why does that person deserve any less attention than Elon Musk or whomever else? Like, somebody
yeah.
tell his story.
I feel on that because that definitely is that is where it's at. You know, like those experiences, those connections, like it definitely gives me life. So I totally agree with you. I definitely agree with you. All and all the other stuff is just a means to an end at the end of the day.
So
You
that
know,
hit the Schwab.
I am. Yo, like shout out to, we're not doing ads, but shout out to Peter.
You
He's
know,
my investment manager.
okay. Shout out to Peter.
He's not my investment manager, but like he's an asset manager, a friend of ours, and he was like, "Listen, you should just put this much money into this." And I was like, "Okay."
When did he start telling you that?
What?
When did he start telling you to do that?
When did he did? Like sometime last year?
Yeah, I mean, I wish he was there like one more year before too.
Yeah,
He would have told me about some of that like 2018, 2019. It would have been much more helpful. But yeah, I mean, he was right. He timed it right. Most people did something. But again, just to go back to the art conversation and what you're trying to build, like I think that sort of platform when you're like telling all three parts of the story, you have the publication, you have the digitized story that gets, you know, into those inputs and those the essence of what makes that person a person, and you know whatever else that they're whatever I forgot the third part of it. What was the third part? There was the
communications.
communications of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I really think you should just keep going forward with that, man. I think that has a lot of legs. There's no one having these conversations. There's no one curating the stories of these people, and I think there's still like a space for that. Like there's gonna be a Hollywood 2.0. All these shows, these Jimmy Kimmels and late night talk shows and all that type of stuff. They appeal to a certain demographic, but they're dying. They're a dying art form. They're a dying industry, and there has
right.
to be something that replaces that. And you know, this is the conversations I was having with Josh with his recent, you know, the recent the short film that he did. Is like these are the stories that need to be told. Like you know, because if we don't tell them, somebody else is gonna tell them about us, and they're gonna be inaccurate. So, you know, I'm sure there's, you know, that's why the black tag thing I'm so happy about. Like, good, there's a black owned, you know, although I'm sure there's obviously there's venture capital investment, but it's a black owned, black managed, black run, you know, platform that's trying to, you know, tell these stories. Like, we need more of that, not less.
Yeah,
And I understand everything's becoming segmented and fragmented, and everybody eventually we're all going to have like 20 different streaming services that we're subscribed to. But you know, so be it. The best ones will rise to the top. Um, but someone still needs to tell those stories, man. And that's I know I'm being redundant, but those stories are still important.